Here we go, guys.
Hey, are you guys up on the screen now?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of our Indiana Standardbred Breed Development Program and Advisory Board meeting. We have on the line, we have Jessica Barnes, Director of Racing and Breed Development. We have committee members Byron Hooley, Joe Putnam, Scott Snyder, Pam Cross, Tim Graber, Faron Parr, and Rick Moore. And Scott Piney is on the call as well from Harris Hoosier Park. If you guys have any questions during this meeting, feel free to enter them in the Q&A portion on to the right of your screen, and we will get them addressed. And we will shoot it over to Jessica.
Okay, I think I'm just going to actually turn it over to Scott Snyder, Chairman of Breed Development, to do the call to order and opening remarks on the agenda. So.
Thank you, Jessica. Scott Snyder. Thanks everybody for being here under these challenging times. As we've been working towards making adjustments for the 2020 program, we've had a lot of discussion, some good input as we try and navigate going forward. So we're going to continue to have some discussion today, go over some of the stuff that we've discussed, and hopefully make some decisions as to what the program will look like for the rest of the year. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jessica, and she can start going through the packet that she's put together.
Okay, you will see some of these are repetitive from last year's meetings because I just wanted to make last week's meetings because I just wanted to make sure that we had them, at our fingertips. The first is, is our budget and the reduction to each of the line items in the budget. Which we discussed last time. Everyone is seeing a 33.68% reduction applied. So that brings our numbers down. I've had a lot of questions of people that have reached out to me and said, they personally, just horsemen out there, I think that, the casino numbers could be low, and, they have a differing opinion that we might see a surge of people going to the casinos, and if those numbers are higher, what is our plan? And, I've told all of them, my plan is if the projections come in a lot higher, if the actual numbers come in a lot higher than our projections, then these groups will call a meeting and we'll take an amended proposal back to the commission. But right now we're trying to make sure that we are okay going forward. And, we don't want to get started and have to, then go apply more cuts, if they aren't where we think they will be. So we're pretty comfortable in those projections and with moving forward. So the first item is the past the overall budget is the Indiana Sire Stakes, if you guys would like me to move on to it.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, Jessica.
So our Sire Stakes, I included the sheets that we had at the last meeting that kind of said where we would be if we had the current structure, a 1-leg reduction, or a 2-leg reduction. Beyond that, I actually reached out to Scott and I said, we heard a lot of discussion last time with a 1-leg reduction for the 3-year-olds, which is, the leg we missed, and then a possible 1-leg reduction for the 2-year-olds or no leg reduction. So I reached out to Scott Piney and I said, what would you do with dates if we had a no leg reduction on the Sire Stakes and a 1-leg reduction on the 3-year-olds? So what he put together, which is a couple of pages down in your packet, is the Standardbred Breed Development Program. I actually modified our pages from our nomination book to show what those dates could look like. And, you know, I was pretty comfortable that everybody was pretty much on consensus with the one leg reduction on the 3-year-olds. I know we didn't have complete agreement on the 2-year-olds and where to go with that. So I just kept the legs in there, and I thought it'd be easier to move one out during this meeting if we needed to, if discussion went that way. So if you look at the Sire Stakes schedule, Scott's proposal is that you would move the 2-year-old legs, just adjust that schedule briefly. So you would have your first legs for the 2-year-olds not starting until around the week of the 21st in July. And initially I expressed some concerns to him, you know, in thinking about the fairs and, you know, is that going to push a lot of horses out to the fairs when the fairs get started, with us not having a Sire Stake that early. And Scott, you know, assured me that he would write some overnight races for 2-year-olds to try to help mitigate that, so our fairs don't receive that flush. So the dates you have here is what I received from him. So I don't
Jessica,
know.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No, real quick. The one thing that's I mean, obviously it's still just like the month of July. It's kind of rearranged a little bit, but everything is still intact. Where still all the Indiana horses can race the state fair. So that's all still been maintained.
Okay.
But no, there's no interference in proper. And there's like 7 days off between the last Sire Stakes and then the state fair. So that's still
okay.
There's no missing out on the state fair also. So
Okay.
that was able to stay intact.
Okay, so they could do the Grand Circuit. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then the 3-year-olds, there was just, you know, some adjustment with the leg that we have lost, and then moving forward. So just some minor adjustments to the dates to make it work. One of the things that Scott said to me, and Scott may want to elaborate on this, is that he had a real concern with the track opening June 14th and those 2-year-old legs being as early as they were in July, that you were just going to just get started racing, and then you're going to have this huge 2-year-old backlog. So you're going to have, you know, we all know the first division of the first legs of the Sire Stakes usually result in multiple divisions, and so that you would create this backlog for overnight races and horses getting in. So that was one of the reasons, you know, moving those forward a little bit. And I don't know if Scott wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, there's that, and also the stuff with the because with the qualifying schedule now is just as like I said, I think there's going to be. I mean, we're doing a really good job so far, especially with the 4 days a week. We're trying to prevent some huge, complete bombardment of qualifiers with all the social distancing practices and trying to do those kind of things. And we're just trying to prevent a huge bombardment of qualifiers. It's just that close to even getting all the horses ready for this season and the ones that haven't raced. Then once we get to the beginning point of the season and the first couple of weeks, there's still going to be regular. We're still going to be kind of flush with qualifiers, and it's starting with 2-year-old. It's going to create an unhealthy bombardment and log jam.
Okay. Also on these sheets, if you look at the bottom of the page at each one of these sheets, I updated the average for the purses for the legs. And this, I actually took the average of the 2-year-olds and I added in the entry fees. So I assumed at least 7 horses in a race to get those average purses. And I thought that was more helpful looking at it this way to see where we were at. Now I can say that I did have some board members and committee members talk to me about the 250 finals. And actually, I just received an email from Steve Cross as we were getting ready to go live here, asking about, you know, why aren't the 250 finals cut? I actually did some calculations on that. And what we found in taking like $50,000 off the finals and putting that onto the legs, what you gained was, especially in the 2-year-olds, you gained about $2,000 to $3,000 per leg is all that you gained. So because of the number of divisions that it splits into, that you really only saw an increase of about $2,000 to $3,000. I know that we didn't officially make a decision on where we wanted to see those finals, but we have received, some input, some varying input out there about whether to keep those finals intact at the 250 or whether we cut those down. So I just wanted to bring that up and say, that I did do those numbers. I can post that sheet if you guys want to see it on what it does. I had another board member call me this morning about it, and we were talking about it. And, the impact to the 2-year-olds, if you were looking at an average of 3 divisions, gave you about a $1,500 increase to each division. So that's what you gained by cutting the finals down by $50,000 to $200,000 for 2-year-olds. 3-year-olds, it would be a little bit higher because you don't have as many divisions typically. But I can totally share that if we'd like to discuss it.
Jessica, can Megan make what she's showing on the computer? It's blurry. It kind of goes in and out, and you really can't see those new purses very well. Okay. I don't know if she's in a way she can make it more in focus.
I don't know. We'll try.
Blow it up, will it help?
It might.
Does that help, Pam?
Yes, that did. You can see
okay.
it better now.
And I can read them now. 2-year-olds estimated purses, 1 division is $71,000. 2 divisions is $37,250 per division. 3 divisions is $26,000. 4 divisions is $20,375, and 5 divisions is $17,000. And then the 3-year-old numbers, 1 division is $56,500. 2 divisions is $31,750. 3 divisions is $22,300. 4 divisions is $17,625, and 5 divisions is $14,800.
Jessica, did you have right off the top of your head what the 3-year-olds, if you use that 50,000, what the 3-year-olds would be like you did for the 2-year-olds?
I can open it and tell you. It would be your average before the entry fees would be $63,000 for 1 division. So if you do that, $63,000, and you assume 7 entries, that would make it $66,500. So 2 divisions, you would look at $33,250. 3 divisions, $22,100, and actually, does that go down? No, that can't be right. $66. I'm just checking my math here. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it looks like, so if you're at 66, oh, I see where I messed up. Okay, if you're at 66,000, So let me go backwards. So if you're at 63,000, okay, your one division would be $66,500. Your two divisions would be $35,000. Your three divisions would be $24,500. And then four divisions, which I don't think we ever got past four with the 3-year-olds last year, would be $19,250. So you gain about $2,000, just depending on where those numbers fall. So.
Jessica, Joe Putnam.
Yes.
Just my opinion on this, through all this talk and stuff, we're still going to maintain, if we agree, the finals for 250, and also we have consolations finals for 25,000. So that essentially is another race for these horses. Obviously, the 250,000 final is the top 10. But then the next 10 would be eligible for this 25,000 guaranteed consolation. So that's almost like adding another leg. That's one way to look at it. And everybody's guaranteed a minimum of 4,000 in the super final. So I think, through the culmination of this, it's still important to have what we call the super finals, a nice pot, 250,000. We've established that. I feel like we can maintain that, and I think that's the ultimate goal where everybody tries to get to. So, my opinion would be to leave the finals as is.
This is Byron Hooley, and I fully agree with that. I think the 250 would be something that could be stationary, and that's a goal that everybody can look forward to. I'd like to see it remain as is.
This Faron, Parr, I'd have to agree. Go ahead, Faron.
I'd have to agree as well. So that was it.
Dwayne, Rhule, I agree also.
Tim Graber agreed, 250.
Justin,
This is
FYI,
Scott
we
Snyder.
have a couple of public comments. We have one that said, I agree with Steve. I would like to see the final cut and have the money spread over the legs, no matter how little it is. It helps the horsemen regain some funds. And then another one also agreed with the going for $200,000, saying it's still pretty good money. But that's from your public comments.
Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, it's, both, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer to, the question in terms of whether you leave them the same or, you reduce them. You can make arguments for both sides, but I would at the moment lean towards leaving them the same, as well as gonna, keep the distribution. You're going to have it all the way down through all the places, including the, the 6 through 10 at 4,000. And that's what we're racing for, is to get to those finals. And I would agree, the fact that we do have a nice consolation, certainly part of that equation. I think if we were getting a bigger bump by reducing them on the legs, that would certainly be more impactful. But I would lean towards the 250 finals as well.
This is Rick Moore.
you know, I agree with Scott's statement that there's no right or wrong answer here, but I would agree with the prevailing thoughts that everyone has spoken, that keeping him 250, I think, you know, in a very tough year, a very challenging year, the fact that there's still that, if you will, that pot of gold at the end of the season is still there. I think it's, I think it speaks a lot, you know, to what we're trying to do to maintain, you know, as best we can, you know, the best Sire steak program, I think, in the country.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to add, we had a question, you know, it said again, why did the fair finals take a 20% hit and not the super finals? And I addressed this question last time. The fair finals, they appear to take a hit because they were going to receive a 25% increase this year. So the fair finals was one of the few items that was actually purses were going to be increased this year. Late closer purses were going to be increased, and so were the fair finals. So the levels that when we get to the county fairs and talk about those, the levels that I have the fair finals at are the 2019 levels. And we can move them up. I mean, we can move them back to the 25,000. It just, then if we do that, then we will have to adjust the number of fairs that we have.
Jessica, this is Pam.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to be the negative person here. I just feel that we're taking cuts across the board. We actually had to give up a final for the fairs. We gave up one other. They only have their one. And I think that, in my opinion, if we're making all these cuts, it should be all the way across the board. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Any other board members?
So Jessica, do we need a motion on this?
Yes, we would, I think we would need a motion to, I think it'd be a rather large motion. If you were going to go with the proposal that is laid out in front of you, I would make a motion to keep the 2-year-old legs at 6, keep the finals at 250,000 and 25,000, amend the dates as indicated. And then the 3-year-old program at 7 legs, which is a 1 leg reduction, and amend the dates as indicated.
Jessica, Joe Putnam.
Yes.
I would make a motion to establish that as you just said.
Okay.
I will second that, Jessica. Scott Snyder.
Okay, we have a second from Scott, and then this is the funding portion of it is the Breed Development Advisory Committee. So you would need to vote between Joe, Rick, and Scott.
All those in favor say aye. Aye, Scott Snyder.
Aye, Joe Putnam.
Aye, Rick Moore.
Okay, and then
motion carries.
The advisory board actually amends the dates. So if we have a motion from the advisory board to accept the dates as amended, then the advisory board would need to take that action.
Tim Graber, I'd make a motion that we amend the dates.
Faron, Parr, I second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Pam Cross, aye.
Tim Graber, aye. Sorry, Tim Graber, aye.
Dwayne Rhule, aye. Faron, Parr, aye. Motion carried.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so then if we move on to the late closers. You have the sheet in front of you that I had in last week's packet, which is kind of the funding summary. And this is a projective sheet. So this actually helps me project out what breed development dollars would be used for these series based on the purses that we had listed. And then the next two sheets is where I've actually taken the nomination booklet and I amended the dates for the first 4 series. And I think there probably needs to be a discussion. I was clear from the meeting that we canceled those ones that were due May 15th, that we had moved to May 15th, so that we had moved the deadline to May 15th. There was a discussion, an email that I got about opening up the nominations again. And I think after talking to committee members, it was pretty consistent that nominations have already been taken for these first 4 events, that there wasn't any wish to open them back up. And plus there was some legal ramifications if you did open them back up for the IS 1, 2, 4, and 6. And then I think we need to have some discussion about the IS 12, 13, and 14.
Jessica, Joe Putnam. 12, 13, and 14, they're the ones in the fall, is that correct? The I-69, yes. The Peony, yes. The single G. So in last week's discussions, we at least talked about eliminating all the late closers other than these first 4 that people had already nominated to, with the intent of writing these in a very similar fashion as kind of a mini-series deal instead of a late closer, to give opportunity later on to the same types of horses. So my opinion would be, as we discussed last week, to wipe out 12, 13, and 14 with the intent of adding some races later in the fall for those types of horses.
Jessica, this is Scott Snyder. I would agree with that. I think that given the circumstances, that is probably the best way to go. And then no one will have to worry about nominating for those, and it just gives us a little bit more flexibility as we try and navigate down the road.
Rick Moore, I would agree with that also. I would put it in the hands of Scott Poney to write whether it's mini series or overnights that fit those horses towards the latter part of the year.
And one thing I can say, I said this last week, the ones that like the Haldale, the Expression, the Miss Naughty by Nature, and the Gone BB, those 4, there's going to be a series written opening week. It's word for word. It's word for word that opening week. So that's already going to have its replacement. The other ones, it's got to find a spot on the calendar for them. But the ones there is already something opening week for the non-winners at 2 version of that.
Would you move the funding that is in for the late closers over to the overnights and mini series to help cover those events?
Yeah, I think, because I even think for like the non-winners at 2 replacement, I think I have tentatively like a purse for like 10 and a final for 20. But I think that's a good idea, just to move it over there, and we can do that's where that money to replace the series is probably going to have to come from, is the overnight fund.
And Jessica, I guess I should have opined on that. That was my thinking. That's what would happen. That money would go towards switch it over to the overnights in the miniseries.
This is Scott Snyder. I would agree with that as well, that money should be moved over to excess money from the Indiana Lake Closers should be moved over to the overnight supplement and miniseries fund.
Yes, Joe Putnam, I would concur with those thoughts.
Okay. Okay. And make that adjustment on the budget. I think if we could have a motion to officially, the only lake closers that will be held will be the 4 at the beginning, and the funds for the lake closers will be shifted to the line item budget for miniseries and overnights.
This is Rick Moore. I would make that motion.
I would second that motion, Scott Snyder.
Very good.
And all those in favor say aye. Scott Snyder, aye.
Joe Putnam, aye.
Rick Moore, aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay. The next item is the Indiana Sire Fair Circuit summary. And I have included the sheet that I originally did for the meeting last week. And then we actually have a draft that is proposed for discussion purposes that actually one of our board members, Cam Cross, put quite a bit of work into. I will tell you that I was actually asked a question on Friday after our meeting, and somebody was asking me about the nomination money and how that went into the fair program. And so what typically happens is all of the nomination money is totaled for the county fairs. There is a reduction to cover the drug testing program at the county fairs. And then that amount that's left, so 90% of the money then goes back out to the county fairs. I had factored in the nomination money into my averages when I was averaging the breed development dollars. But what I had not taken into account is we would be dividing that nomination money by much fewer locations than we had in, say, 2019. So once I made that adjustment, it actually brought our breed development average down per program. So once I made that adjustment, we can actually modify the number of programs to 12. So I was able to actually squeeze us out another fair program. So I'll talk about Pam's proposal here that she put together, and then I'll kind of turn it over to Pam and let her add on to it. I would have to say that I reached out to Mike McDaniels yesterday and had a conversation with Mike, and I think Joe had actually talked to him the day before about his thoughts on the possibility of moving the fair final to a date still at the Indiana State Fair, but outside of the state fair. And I wanted to gauge his reaction to that, because since he had worked so hard to change get the governor's office on board with the governor's cup, I wanted to see what his thoughts were with us doing that and what kind of the political ramifications were. And in talking with him, he appreciated me reaching out to him. He said that he completely understood that for the good of the program, if it made more sense to have the fair final at the end of the season, which would be, you know, a 9/12 date at the Indiana State Fair, that he would be all in favor of that. It wouldn't offend him at all, and then he would actually work to make sure and get the governor, you know, to that date. So, you know, with the understanding that this is just kind of a one-year thing, and that fair final would come back to the races during the Indiana State Fair next year. So what this program does is it actually makes some modifications to the existing calendar so that every county fair that has participated in our program has a program. So I don't know if Megan wants to go to the next sheet that I have in the packet. It has, you know, Converse as 7-4 and 7-5. Now, one of the things I want to bring up is I wasn't actually looking at a calendar when we did this, and 7-5 is on a Sunday. So, you know, there probably needs to be some discussion about whether we have, you know, the first day all in one day. We cannot start before 7-4. So that's something we need to discuss. Jay County is the second program, 7-8 and 7-9. Then we go to Noble County, Newton County, Clinton County, that is during their fair. So they kept that date. Elkhart County, Fayette County is the 8th program. So we got rid of an extra date that we had in the middle of there, a Shelby County, to try to keep them more evenly spaced and actually spread the fair program out a little bit farther. So then you had Shelby County either on 8-3 or 8-5. It may actually work better for 8-5. You actually removed the Portland, that would be the second time at Portland for the year. So then you would go to the Grand Circuit at the Indiana State Fair on 8/12. You would have the elite races on 8/13. And then we would have 3 more programs, one on approximately 8/19, 8/25, and 9/4. And of those programs, Harrison County does not have one because they were canceled in June. So you would give Harrison County their choice of which they would have. And then you would actually ask the fairs that were all scheduled to have more than one program to be drawn at lot to have the 8/25 and 9/4, and then the state fair finals on 9/12. So I don't know if Pam, if you want to elaborate, because you actually kind of, you know, put some work into this, if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Yep, this is Pam. First, I want to, if Mr. McDaniels is listening, I want to thank you for considering this for us. Really appreciate it. It would help our program, and I think to have the final at the very end would be beneficial and just make instead of just having 3 races afterwards for just races. So I want to thank you for that. And Jessica, there is a miscount.
Okay.
Clinton County is 5 and then Elkhart is 7. So we actually would need another 4th one after the state fair racing. So that would push the final to the next week, the 18th and 19th. See, Clinton County's 5.
Yep, I see that.
7. And with that, I think that looks good. I did talk to Gretchen because she had concerns about photo finish, but that's something we can talk about when and if we talk with all the race secretaries. I also talked to Linda, and she is okay and feels that would be okay to have the elite races on that second day of the state fair. We can't really do an actual fair race that day. There would just be too many divisions and not enough room. For the elite, there's almost always a lot less divisions and races, and that would fit a lot better. The other thing that we would have to consider is that Converse one, if Linda said she would be okay with Sunday. I know it's not going to work for some of the participants, but if we would do it Saturday, Monday, then you can't race at Jay County on the 8th. You'd have to move that to the 9th, but then you couldn't race at Noble and Newton County because of our 2 days in between rule. So we would almost, and if we do that starters, you know how on those first 3 fairs, we always only have, one trailer. And if we would only race 1 day, we would probably have about 50 races at Converse on 1 day. So we would, I know Sunday isn't the most ideal, but that would about be the only way we could do that. Same way with Jay County. I don't know if we would want to just do a one time where we only have 1 trailer, since it's going to be kind of later and some of these 2-year-olds might already be qualifying and be getting behind the gate. Then Jay County would only have 1 day on the 8th so that you can race back at Newton and Noble. The other thing that we would have to talk about is how many fairs eligible that you would have to participate in to be eligible for the final. And if you look at the schedule, technically, even though we have 12 different opportunities to race, there's only really 10 because of Newton and Noble being the same day, and the Connorsville and Elkhart or Goshen Fair, even though there is 1 day that they could come back and race at Connorsville, only part of the program can come back and race at Connorsville. So technically we would only have like 10 opportunities. So I'm proposing like having 6 out of the 10 that you would have to participate in order to make it into the final. And I think that was about it. Jeff Corridon could get one of those 4 afterward, and then just contact all the fairs, find out who would want another one, and then just throw them in the hat if there's more than 3, and then draw by lot to decide the last 3.
This is Byron. I think Pam did a great job on this schedule. If the option at Converse is not to go with all of them in 1 day, I wouldn't mind seeing like the Sunday races starting at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock so that the church corps could attend and so on. That'd be a possibility. The other thing is the finals, the state finals at the fairgrounds. I think we need to establish a rain date so that we can have like 2 days, 3 days later, a rain date at Indianapolis, making sure that it takes place at Indy, and so we don't have to go to a half-mile track. I think all horses need to have their nose on the gate when you go into a final. So that'd be my opinion. I think the schedule looks good.
This is Faron, Parr, and I think Pam did a wonderful job on all that, and I agree with Byron that if it would rain, that maybe another date, but keep it at the state fair.
Dwayne, Rhule, I want to commend Pam for the work that she's done on this, but I pretty well agree with what's been said. The way, I don't know whether we'll need a motion or not, but I agree with what we've said so far.
Tim Graber, are you still there?
I am. I like it the way it's written.
Okay. Breed development committee members. Breed development funds the program, and then the advisory board approves the schedule. So breed development committee members, do you have any concerns or thoughts?
Joe Putnam.
This is Scott Snyder. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Scott. No concerns. Job well done putting this together, kind of last minute and considering everything going on. I think this will give a pretty full season. Maybe not quite as much as past years, but still a nice run up to a fair final. And I agree with Byron also, if we could get a, an alternative date for a backup just in case of rain. It's real important to have the finals at the Indiana State Fair.
Scott Snyder, Jessica, great job. And thanks for all your hard work, Pam. Yeah, I have no problem funding the program as described. Obviously, the biggest thing is just kind of ironing out some of the dates and times. But I'm fine with supporting it.
Rick Moore, good job, Pam, and I'm in full support.
This is Pam again. Thank you guys for that. Appreciate it.
Joe Putnam again. I would make a motion to accept the 2020 fair program as described.
Rick Moore, second.
All those in favor, say aye. Scott Snyder, aye.
Joe Putnam, aye.
Rick Moore, aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then we will need the same type of a motion from the Standardbred Advisory Board.
Dwayne Rhule.
Byron Hooley. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hooley.
Byron Hooley, make a motion to accept that as it is, with a view of getting the dates and everything scheduled. I move we accept it.
All in favor?
Who seconded that one? Sorry, I missed the
Second.
second.
I'll give you a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Faron, Parr, aye.
I have an aye from Pam Cross. Faron Parr.
Yes, aye.
Tim Graber.
Aye.
Byron Hooley.
Aye.
Dwayne Rhule.
Aye.
Okay. That is a 5-0. Thank you, guys. We will work with the fairs to get those dates ironed out and get the schedule set. The next item is, yes, Pam.
This is Pam. Do we need to actually also with this figure out how many starts is eligible for the final and about the starters?
Yes,
we have to do that too, don't we?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. That's why I sent it that email, so I wouldn't forget. Right now, our conditions say 7 starts. So if we need to modify those conditions, we need to make a motion to require less starts than 7 for the fairs finals.
Really, I would be okay with 7, but that's 7 out of 10. I don't know if that's too tight for sickness and stuff, or is 6 out of, because even though it's 12, like I said, there's really only 10 times that you could race. So
I would go with 6 and even 5 because you got, like you said, you got some illness issues going on, but I'd be fine with 6. Byron?
Dwayne Rhule, I agree with Byron.
Faron, Parr, I agree as well.
Does someone want to make? Go ahead, Tim.
No, I said I agree with the number 6.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we mandate 6 starts for the finals, Graber.
Pam seconds.
All in favor?
I can do a roll call. Tim Graber. Tim Graber.
Aye.
Pam Cross.
Aye.
Faron Parr.
Aye.
Byron Hooley.
Aye.
Dwayne Rhule.
Aye.
Okay.
Now,
And
the
so-
next thing this is Pam again, what about the starters? You know how we did it for the first 3 fairs. I don't think we need to do it for the first 3. Can we just do it for 1 and be done? Or Portland has a big wide track, so we would probably be okay with that being the second fair. And you already have short fields at Kentland and Kendallville anyway. So do we just do the first fair as to the amount of starters?
Byron, I would say the first fair would be good. After that, you do a draw like you normally would.
Byron, do you want to make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion, the first fair Converse, that we go with the normal starting as we started the season. Second fair on, we would have the correct number as is, with no allowances for 2-year-olds.
So the first fair will have no more than 1 trailer when it splits in divisions. The second fair and beyond will go by the split chart in the nomination book.
I second that. Pam.
Okay, and I will do roll call again if there's no discussion.
The only discussion I'd have, are we still, what kind of time would we do that Sunday for Converse?
I think that they would be pretty open to do it 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, that still gives them plenty of daylight, and we can recommend that to them. If they don't have, the fair's not going on, nothing's going on there, I don't see why it couldn't be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon time.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. The motion on the floor, Tim Graber?
Tim Graber, aye.
Pam Cross?
Aye.
Faron Parr?
Aye.
Byron Hooley?
Aye.
Dwayne Rhule?
Aye.
Okay. And then the next item, I think that finishes up all the fair.
Jessica, Joe Putnam.
Okay.
Do we need to do anything on the elite races? Is that
Yes,
part of
you guys
this?
need to, breed development needs to approve the modified budget for those. So to fund the elite at $5,000 a category, and the Elkhart County races at 10 each.
Joe Putnam again. I had a few people on our board of directors at the ISA ask about if we could refund, not refund as in money, but refund the races back to 7,000 if we have monies available to do that. But we have a board meeting scheduled for June 1st, so till we had discussion and a vote on that, I couldn't say yes or no to that. But would that be a possibility that we could add it after the fact, or
from the ISA?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the ISA's race. So if the ISA wants to put some of their own money into the race, they can do so. This is just the portion that comes from the breed development program. So, you know, in this,
we could do that after the fact without amending Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
very
yeah,
good.
because you're just, breed development is just approving what comes from breed development. So,
Okay.
you know, and the same goes for Elkhart County. If, you know, Tim Graber wants to hustle up some sponsorships up there, you know, he could completely add more money onto his races. But this would just be, this is the funding that comes from breed development for those races.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
This is Rick Moore. I would move to fund those races at the levels that you just stated, Jessica.
Okay.
Scott Snyder, I would second that. All those in favor say aye. Scott Snyder, aye.
Joe Putnam, aye.
Rick Moore, aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. I believe that summarizes the program for 2020.
We have a couple questions, general questions that for some housekeeping. The first says the cardinal date. Is it Tuesday, June 16th or Thursday, June 18th? The packet has Tuesday, June 18th.
That is me working on this about 9:30 last night. It is Tuesday, June 16th, and we will make that change before we post it to the website. I think I said that before we went live, and I didn't say it during the live event, but we will make that that change as for what we post on the website.
And then I think we covered this in the meeting last week, but for those in the back that maybe are joining us for the first time, someone asked, has anything been decided as to what to do with the missing race days up to this point? Will they be added to the end of the meet of this year or added on to next year?
I'll start that, and then Rick can chime in. You know, I think if you look at everything, you know, funding has taken a huge hit, and the approach has been that at this point in time, if we were to try to make up most of those missing days, versus would drive down further. So I don't know if Rick wants to chime in on that.
Yeah, I just second what you just said, Jessica. The purses that finish dealers are based on the number of days remaining in the meet. We did add 2 days to the first week in November to the original schedule, but you know, that's the extent of it. And again, you know, we based the money that's available. We based it on the remaining days left in the meet, which 111 with the addition of those 2 days.
Okay. And then a couple of questions are all the same. Is it still 3 starts to make the ISA Elites, or how many fair starts do you need to be eligible for the ISA Elites this year?
I'll kind of defer to Joe, but that is something, those conditions are set by the ISA Board of Directors. So Joe, this might be something that you guys want to discuss in your upcoming meeting to decide whether that 3 starts is still appropriate or not.
I'm just looking at the conditions as we're speaking. Yeah, horses must have participated in or credited with at least 3 Indiana Sire Fair Circuit races. We will discuss it at our June 1st meeting, but I'm confident that it will still remain 3. But we will definitely talk about that, vote on that, and post that.
Okay. And last call for any questions. We have a comment. Excellent job to each one involved with the changes. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. I think that goes for everybody on these two boards and the commission.
All right, I think that that just about wraps things up. I don't know that there's any old or new business, given what we've just gone over. Anything else? Anyone?
The commission meeting, I don't know if we've posted it yet, but there will be a, tentatively the commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 28th. So that will probably be going up on our website soon. So that is May 28th at 1 o'clock start time, and it will be a virtual meeting. So this proposal will actually go to the commission to be approved at that time.
Jessica, again, thanks for all your hard work. Jessica, Megan, thanks for setting us all up, making technology work for all of us.
I tried.
I will.
Yes, thank you everybody for your hard work.
Thank you guys for everything. I know that none of us expected to be in this situation, but I think we're just all trying to make the best of it. So and move forward and get started racing. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for one. So we've got a couple of days of qualifiers under our belt, and it won't be long, and it's time for opening night.
This is Scott Snyder. I did that, Rick. And thank you everyone for all the hard work, and I'm extremely pleased how the online meetings have worked out for us. So great job, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is a motion to adjourn?
Scott, do we need to adjourn the meeting? Do we need a motion for that?
Go ahead, Joe.
So I make a motion to adjourn the breed development meeting.
I second that.
Rick Moore.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good job, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Be safe.
Take care. See y'all.
See ya.